Hey, what's going on, guys? Oh, Happy New Year. It's 2018 for most of y'all, but for some people, particularly in the Western Hemisphere in the United States, it's still 2017, but happy 2018 to a lot of people out there. But this is a tribute video to Jan Smuts, or J.C. Smuts. And Jan Smuts was the Prime Minister of South Africa during World War II. But because he wore a British Army uniform and allied himself with Winston Churchill, I mistakenly referred to him as a British South African in previous video talking about South Africa in World War II, but he was actually a fifth-generation Afrikaner, fifth-generation descendant of Dutch settlers. He was born in 1870 in the Western Cape Province, and his dad was a farmer, and he spent most of his early years on his dad's farm. And Jan Smuts was, even though he had an affinity for the British Empire and was connected to it, and believed in making peace and reconciliation between the Afrikaners and the British South Africans, Jan Smuts was an Afrikaner, and he grew up speaking the Afrikaans language. I mean, he was an Afrikaner. And he fought in the Boer War on the side of the Afrikaners. He was a general in the Boer War, but after the Boer War, he stressed reconciliation between the British and the Afrikaners, and rightfully so. And stressing the reconciliation paid off. He helped ally South Africa with the Allies in World War I and World War II, and it benefited South Africa and the world greatly because of that. And because Jan Smuts had that ability to do things like that, he borderline helped create the League of Nations, and the creation of the League of Nations was the model for creating the UN. So he's a major reason why the UN, or the United Nations, exists today. Jan Smuts served on advisory panels to the UK High Command in World War I and World War II. So he was largely a reason why Nazism was defeated in World War II. And that is a major accomplishment. As I've said before in previous videos, that the South Africa sent 23 pilots to the Battle of Britain, and 9 South Africans were killed in action. And the Battle of Britain was the first major engagement where the Nazis were defeated. And Adolf Milan was largely responsible for the UK winning the Battle of Britain, because he changed the flying formation that the British airplanes flew in, and the formation that he changed it to. After he changed that formation, the UK shot down more and more Nazi planes. So that's a large contribution from South Africa during World War II. And where South Africa's geography is situated, it controls the connections between the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean. And Japan had some colonies out in the Indian Ocean, and then Madagascar was a Vichy French colony that cooperated with Nazi Germany. So if South Africa had sided with the Axis, it would have been disastrous for the Allies, because South Africa would have controlled a major shipping area. And Jan Smuts was able to convince enough South Africans, enough people, that that South Africa needed to side with the UK and needed to side with the Allies. And South Africa defeated a larger Italian force at the Battle of El Wak in the North Africa campaign. And that was a major accomplishment. And they defeated a larger Italian air force in the North Africa campaign, a larger Italian force with a lot of superior planes a lot of times, but the South African Air Force prevailed. So Jan Smuts went to the UK in 1942 to address Parliament. And when he addressed Parliament, this was one of the biggest deals when a foreign leader addressed Parliament. Members of both houses of Parliament were all there, and he was given a royalty welcome to address the situation in World War II. And he talked about Hitler persecuting the Jews and the Christians, which Hitler did. Hitler persecuted a lot of Christians as well. And then Jan Smuts was touched by the Holocaust. He really hated that Hitler was exterminating the Jews in record numbers like Hitler was. And Jan Smuts wanted to put a stop to it. I mean, it broke his heart that was going on. And in his speech to Parliament, he borderline noted that. And he talked about how in World War II, the UK was on the side of freedom and Nazi Germany was on the side of oppression. And it was a very good 1942 address to Parliament. And that's when he addressed Parliament, was in 1942. So, yes, he did support the Land Removal Act in 1913, which disproportionately relocated a lot of blacks in South Africa to less than 20% of the land. That was a long time ago, different story. He supported that in 1913. But shortly before his death in 1950, his thoughts changed about that. And he didn't believe segregation was going to last, and he didn't support segregation lasting. And so he had a change of heart in that. Yes, particularly before World War II, he noted that he thought blacks as inferior and childlike. But again, after World War II and shortly before his death, his thoughts changed on that. So, hope everyone's doing well. Take care. God bless them. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.